So, I mean, the conversation has always been around the youth being a larger percentage of the population, whether we want to look at Kenya specifically or if we want to look at Africa. So, lots of responsibility being placed on the shoulders of of young people across board. So, if this responsibility is being placed on them economically and saying that they have the power then to raise the economic profile of any country, that they are the ones who are going to be filling the workforce, there's got to be some kind of power that's also placed with this responsibility. And to be able to say, all right, if you're going to be running a business, if you're going to be working for government, if you're going to be teaching, if you're going to be using your skills in artistry, how then are you going to be empowered to make this happen? Is it through education? Is it through a heightening of your skills? Is it then through facilitating this through funding? There's so many things that encompass this youth agenda in terms of empowerment. And we're having that conversation this morning about how to see what then really does it mean and how can you empower young people to make sure that they feel this written or spoken responsibility that lies on their shoulders when it comes to building nations. So we're having that conversation today with two people. Nadia Abdalla is the Chief Administrative Secretary for the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. She joins us this morning, as does the United Nations Population Fund Kenya representative Ademola Olajide. Good morning and welcome to both of you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Good morning.
Good morning to you and welcome to the Situation Room. So I think let's just go straight into the CAS. And this is about a program that now you're launching today, Kenya ni Mimi. What is Kenya ni Mimi?
Thank you very much. So Kenya ni Mimi is actually a dialogue campaign that I started in January, and now we're ending it with a partnership with UNFPA. It's basically a platform where I'm giving young people a chance to, first of all, acquire information and an opportunity about government opportunities. Secondly, to also teach young people about different innovative mechanisms in order for them to make a better well-being for themselves. It's also a campaign that focuses on health and well-being in terms of mental health, sexual reproductive health around young people in Kenya. We're also looking at climate and environment conservation because, again, we have to protect our country and environment in order for the next generation to come to be able to live in a sustainable way. And the last thing is to reinstill values to young people. I realized growing up, and right now, most young people are not patriotic. And since I'm in such a position, I took the initiative myself to draft up something that will be able to reinstill that back in order for young people to stand for themselves and also to be able to be better and not be used when it comes to political issues and other relations.
Thank you very much. The initiative is laudable. It's something that actually is worthy of praise. But let me ask the question. Given the challenges that young people have in this country, if you were to implement this, at what stage do you hope to start implementing it? At the stage where people are in adolescence, do you hope to influence perhaps the Ministry of Education so that some of these things are included in the curriculums so that people are taught at a very early age, so as they grow up, these values have been inculcated in the system? How do you hope to go about this?
Okay. And so I'm 11 months into the job at the moment. And the strategy that I've used first is I've really engaged with the young people in the grassroots and tried to really understand. You know, for longest time, it was about what us as a government tell young people what to do. But what I did is I went to do some research and development and try to understand what are the areas that have gaps. What are the areas that need special attention? And why is it that there's this big gap between the young people and the government? And so once we found out these little information that we got, we then now had to look at how are we going to partner with the different ministries in order for us to really empower and instill these values. And you're right, if you want to really change, it has to start from the young people. But at the same time, we also need to see how we can really change the older people's mentality in order for them to really have positive values and positive vibes when it comes to now communicating and dealing with young people. Because at the end of the day, if you look at Kenya, we are a community and social systematic sphere. And so, yes, we can propose to have educational systems that really support this. But if we don't also take care of the older ones and really tell them what to do, then we really loosen the gap between.
Okay, so from what you've seen, and I guess bringing in partners like UNFPA, from what you've seen, what do young people need? Because apart from a conducive environment whereby they can flourish, whether it's education, whether it is funding for their projects if they want to go into entrepreneurship, whether then it is additional training even when they're on the job, if they want to take up positions in government, in corporate sector, in private sector, what have you found that people need coming from your side, that young people need coming from your side of things? And also then from the partner side, Olajide, how then can we make this happen?
Okay. So on my side, what young people need is first acknowledgement. And then secondly, they need to be taken step by step when it comes to really acquiring these opportunities, when it comes to information, and when it comes to like substantive values for them to really go ahead. Because a lot of times when I go to the different wards, the question is, Madam CAS, sisi hatujui kuhusu hii program, sisi hatujui officers ni gani, sisi hatujui hivi na hivi. So what I do is I usually take the officers that are in charge in that particular ward or county, and I go with them and I really make them talk and explain to them how to go about different things. And when I talk about acknowledgement, I mean the fact that we are always telling them they're 75.1% in the country. That's like 35 million. We can't just tell them. We also have to be able to sit down with them, listen to them, and just be able to acknowledge that, yes, they are change makers. They're doing different things from time to time. And can we listen to what else they need so that they can be able to change the different approaches they have?
Thank you. So for me to just go forward from where the CAS has stopped, what is important to note is the fact that young people are not static at any point in time. They keep changing from time to time, their needs, their aspirations, and the conditions that confront them. So what this platform proposes to do and has presented is an opportunity to continue to have dialogue, not just between government and the young people, but amongst young people themselves. So they can create synergies, create partnerships, create support for themselves and between the older and younger population, such that needs will be addressed at the time when they are needs. And we are not implementing programs that have already lost their significance to their current situation. One key thing is about the trust deficit. Some young people do not trust the government as they should. They do not trust their own capacities and the society as a whole. As we begin to re-engage ourselves, then we can build that trust deficit and find a way to at least optimize all of the opportunities available. And of course, work with young people to also address those challenges that hinder them, that relate to their sexual and reproductive health and rights. HIV infections is increasing amongst young people. They are the largest cohort. Teenage pregnancy is a major obstacle. So what we intend to do is to build that platform where young people themselves can continue to tell us how to reach them and how to help them.
So after they tell, because I mean, as Mr. Abdalla said, as they tell, it's a conversation that's being had. But then specific things that happen thereafter, what are we really looking at? So a young person says, okay, I'm on this platform and I've told what my needs are. But then how does that translate into something tangible that they can see has helped them move from point A to point B?
There's a range of partners, for example, on our side. I work for the United Nations Population Fund, but I'm not the only UN agency in Kenya. We're close to about 22, 23. And I've had conversations with quite a number of them, and I chair the Adolescent and Youth Technical Working Group of the UN, where we implement various programs within our comparative advantage. You have the UNDP, for example, supporting youth with entrepreneurship and innovation capabilities. We have ILO that is supporting also with entrepreneurship and job skills. What we want to be able to do is to leverage the comparative advantage of all of these UN agencies under the leadership of the government and tailor the interventions to those particular needs that are identified. So we are ready. And we think this platform provides us an opportunity for our programs to be more adaptable, more reactive, and much more tailored towards solutions that are needed. So it's not just about UNFPA, it's a whole range of development partners within that space.
CS Nadia, how are you going to be able to get to young people and invite them here and actually make sure that they are becoming participatory on this platform, as opposed to just knowing that it exists, but actually participating?
Yeah. And so basically what we are also looking at, which is the bigger vision, is ownership. Okay. Young people being part of this, of the bigger decision-making mechanism, and just being able to be included when it comes to really trying to improve the different programs that are there. So one of the things that we are doing, we have the Kenya Nimimi ambassadors. This is something that we designed intentionally so that we are able to, so that they're able to help us disseminate the information, but also create different activities that prompt the young people to be included and participate. And so we have national and we have county ambassadors. And basically what we've done now, after we launched it on the 7th, we had a workshop on the 8th. And from the workshop, I tasked these ambassadors. We had 52, 47 from the different countries and 3 from the PWD's representation. I tasked them to really now go and study the 5 pillars that we have in the launch, in the campaign. Then they should design a campaign or suggest initiatives from their side to us first, before we now sit down with our partner UNFPA and now redesign how we are going to structure these different approaches. And from this, you see that these young ambassadors are in contact with their villagemen, are in contact with their elders, are in contact with other groups. So they will give us a perspective of how they think Kenya Nimimi will work for them. So it's really for the youth.
Right.
Driving us, yes.
I'm just going to ask you, Olajide said something very interesting. 2 things. One, this is happening under the leadership of the government. And he's also said that there's a deficit of trust when it comes to young people and government. You are a young person now working in government. How then do you want to be able to breach, to close that gap? Because it's a big thing. 35 million youth, young people, those considered young people in the country, where there's a trust deficit already. And we're saying the responsibility to essentially save the country lies in their hands. How would you really want to do that through this?
So of course, I cannot rebuild the trust 100%, especially also with the limited time. But from what I have is my initiative to go to the ground myself. And I've realized that since I did that from January, it's actually built a bit of trust with some of the young people. You know, I go to the ground, I involve myself in the different things they're doing. I study the programs that are there. I sit down with them and I show them that a young person like myself, who was once on the other side, is now in government and is trying to really break down the structural information that is there. So ikiwa nikienda mahali Rabai, najua the problem ni sexual reproductive health, nakaa nao as a young lady from the coast, I speak to them. If I'm in Nyanza, I speak to them based on what is happening there. So I really study the demographics of that particular place, and then I go with that intention.
I like what you're saying, and particularly that bit of where you state that you look at existing programs and you try to marry the programs that you or the projects you have in mind with these. Now, there are 2 key programs that the government initiated for the youth. There's the Youth Enterprise Development Fund and the Kenya Youth Employment and Opportunities Project. Now, first of all, how far have these projects achieve the goals that they set out to achieve? And how do you marry your program into these existing programs, or are they part of these programs?
Okay. So thank you. These two programs, I've actually really, I would say, invested my time in them, especially KOP and Youth Fund. And I'll start with KOP. KOP is right now in cycle 5. And when COVID hit, they were at cycle 4. What I did was I joined the KOP team, and we went around to really check whether the master craftsmen are really abiding to the COVID-19 regulations that the Ministry of Health had put in place. And we did this because the young people had stopped the trainings. And with KOP, it's a 6 months training, 1 month life skills, and then the other 5 months you choose either enterprise or entrepreneurship. And what was affecting the young people was the fact that when it stopped, the stipends of these young people also stopped. So I knew that I had to really go physically to these master craftsmen offices to check, so that the young people can see that Kenya Nimimi is involved in it. You see, as Kenya Nimimi, we're not drafting up new programs. We have the existing programs in the government, like KOP. So how are we now really synergizing it into this campaign so that the young people can see, one, the person who's spearheading the campaign is personally involved in it, and two, so that we can disseminate more information about it. When we talk about Youth Fund, of course, young people never knew that it had different segments. There's Talanta loan, there's VUCA loan, there's Agri loan. Young people didn't know about this. So when I started interacting with the officers and the young people, I realized that the information gap was there. So what did I do? The same Kenya Nimimi. I then now, with my team, we designed a structure in which we were going to help young people understand and know the information that was there. And during COVID, there's a lot of success stories. Just recently, I gave a truck to a young man from Meru who was doing agricultural business. And so it's not about designing different programs, because there's no time for that. It is all about how Kenya Nimimi is now really involving and supporting the young people to understand that these programs exist, and these are the success stories that come from it.
Young people are disadvantaged, that we understand, and it is true, and it's unfortunate. But there's a segment of young people who I believe are disadvantaged even more. Now, these are young people living with disabilities. Are there special programs, a special focus for these individuals, or should they just find their way in, by fitting into what already exists? How exactly are you approaching this?
Yeah. And so when we launched it on 7th, we made it an intention to really invite more than 30 young people living with disabilities. And I remember there was the same question that the group asked me and said, are there special programs that are tailored in there? And of course they are, because they are part of the young people who make up the 75.1%. And the first thing that we were going to do is we are going to listen to the young people who are living with disabilities and try to understand where their challenges are, because I am very aware, and we're very aware with our partnership, that they have unique challenges as compared to the normal young person. And so we're going to really sit down, listen to what they're going to say. How do we really tailor and reinstill their same problems and values into Kenya Nimimi? Secondly, we have the segment of health and well-being. And one of the things that we had realized when we were talking is that mental health was the most important element for them as well. And that's the first thing we were going to approach them with, mental health. How is it that you accept yourself and really look deep down within to find out you can be able to be part and parcel of the change that is happening in the world? And so it's you see, Kenya Nimimi is not static. It's a progressive campaign. And we are learning as we go by. And that's what Dr. Ademola as well said, is that we have this, it's a structure, it's there. We have the different segments that we put in, but we're still going to grow with it, because young people are very disruptive and dynamic. And we know that. And I know that because I'm a young person as well. And so I just want this campaign to be able to serve the purpose of teaching, reinventing, supporting, including, and taking ownership, because that's another key thing with Kenya Nimimi. We want the young people to take ownership of the different things, whether it's the challenges or it's the good things that are happening.
Dr. Ademola, there's something I'd like to ask you. Tell us about your success stories as UNFPA in Kenya.
Well, I think for us as UNFPA in Kenya, our success story spans across a broad range. One, we have seen with regards to gender-based violence and female genital mutilation. One of the things that we remain very proud about is the fact that we're able to work with governments, even at the highest level, to change the narrative when it comes to FGM. And what you begin to see right now is a lot of activities, not only at the national level, but at the county and community level. Related to that is that we have found that when COVID hit, our capacity as development partners and governments working at the community level to respond to what we have called the shadow pandemic was very limited. And we've been able to bridge that gap of working with only organizations that have audited accounts, systems, and structures to begin to work with small civil society organizations, community-based organizations that need just $5,000, $10,000, and may not be able to walk through the rigors of our system, and then reach the community to address it. We continue to work with the National Population and Development Council, which is a coordinating hub for population programs. And they are also able to lead a coherent population program, which is important to address the needs of the population in Kenya. One of our key successes is working with the government of Kenya and the government of Denmark to host the ICPD 25 summit, where the government of Kenya made landmark commitments. I can keep going on, but one thing that I can say that we have mastered how to do differently as UNFPA Kenya is to adapt our programs to both the needs of government and the communities we serve. And that was why we saw an opportunity with the Kenyan Nimini. And we thought that immediately let's begin to use this so that whatever we do is adaptable, it's scalable, and it delivers results.
And that's a very, very good way of actually saying it and even ending it. You know, being able to adapt to what the needs are, and both the needs of the government and the needs of the community as well, not just coming in with their own solutions from boardrooms. Very good way of going. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Dr. Ademola Olajide. He is the UNFPA representative for Kenya. And Nadia Abdalla, Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. Asante sana. And Nadia, that's a very, very good program that you started. And it's good to hear that, you know, you have put your all into it, into seeing that it succeeds and into seeing that the youth can then feel that they are also getting involved. Asante sana and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.